Morning, Wenching. Morning, Sam.
Hello.
Howdy, folks. Haven't chatted in a little while here. Oh, you got your GoSim background going there. Where did you
I was recording something using this background,
where
but
did you get that background? Because I looked around for one and I couldn't. I haven't found it yet. You
uh,
gotta.
uh, so it looks like yeah, I was recording it, and this background is what I use. Let me see, what's my usual thing? I think it's this. Yeah.
Anyway, it'd be good to have that background for conference there. That'd be good. Morning, Stephen.
Morning.
Awesome. Let's give it another minute or so. Folks to come in. How you been doing, Sam?
Just fine. How you guys doing?
I have no complaints about August in Seattle. It was awesome. Look, I need to wipe something off. I'll be right back. 1 second. All right. Well, let's see. It's 3 after. Might as well get going. Yesterday we'll get our meetings done in like 30 minutes. Saved everyone a lot of time. So maybe we can go, quickly here. Let me share my screen. Yeah, it's 4 after, so let's get going here. Let's see. I want this one. These chat up. Yeah.
Winching, did you see my comment on the version
Yeah,
issue?
I just opened up this morning, so just a few minutes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I was
Uh,
on vacation for most of last week.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there's three of me in there, but at least one has the picture. All right, welcome everyone to our September 3rd post-August sabbatical meeting of the Trust Planning Protocol Task Force. And as usual, we have our antitrust policy notice and our special notice about our maximum 45-day exclusion period. Very simple agenda today. Get caught up because we haven't met for all of August. Just any current issues or topics on the spec, and then briefly talking about the new working groups that are launching or have launched in the case of AI and human trust, but just getting us all on the same page of that. Lastly, we've revised the dates of the symposium, Trust for Peace symposium, but we want to confirm what we want to prepare for that. Even though it's a little more than 2 months away, it's still, we want to start early. We want to do a blog post about it fairly shortly. So we want to show some sort of highlights. So that's what's on the agenda. Any additions or revisions to the agenda before we get going? All right, let's dive into it. What is the status of issues, questions around the spec?
Yeah, so uh, the current list of the issues are up to date, and so the more precise status I think will be in that list. This we closed a, a lot of issues related to um, syncing up with Caesar version 2 or finalizing those codes. There are two added back to it. There's two decisions need to be made. One is related to the versioning string, is how to synchronize not just the Caesar protocol aspects, but also the code table itself. And I think Sam, the simple reason would be the code are likely to be modified more frequently than the protocol itself. So that's the
Yeah, and that would every time there's a new cryptographic primitive, the Caesar code table could get modified, and there's no way without putting the Caesar code table version, there's no way to message that you're using an updated code without forcing everybody to upgrade their protocol versions, which is usually a much heavier lift in terms of CI/CD and deployment and management. But this way, you could use a later, newer codes, and people would say, "Well, I don't recognize those codes, so I'll drop the message without forcing people to change the version, the published version of the protocol that's using Caesar, if that makes any sense." So we had some discussion about that in the Carry Suite working group, and decided to add that there. And I think it's at the cost of a couple of extra byte, 3 extra bytes. It makes the governance of the protocols a lot simpler and easier to
yeah.
version.
So we also had because this one is amount to harder to explain. Most of the protocols don't do this, or they will simply say, "Well, we will accumulate enough change and just make a protocol changes." Essentially, the two versions are always the same time.
Yeah, but we could have multiple protocols all using the same Caesar code table.
Yeah.
So that means that all of those protocols would have to upgrade, right? So it seemed like it, it seemed like that it would start to result in back pressure from people saying, don't add new codes to Caesar for us because we don't want to upgrade. And somebody else will say, yeah, but we really need those codes, so add them, right? And then
A
uh,
so
so it
it
was,
Yeah, I was just going to add, like, we had some discussion, and the alternative way, like
yeah,
most of the IETF protocol stack, for example, they would do is they put the code table as a separate document or process,
yeah,
like assign numbers, for example, and then those becomes the two entity becomes separate. And in the at the end of the day, like the TSP protocol, for instance, in our case, we would still need to decide which code to support or not to support at a particular time.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's the signaling of because it's a compatibility issue or interoperability issue. Whether do you want to do that as a separate process or want to embed that information within this particular code itself. So we can embed it. So the receiver, if it's auto code, um, they would at least be aware that there is a compatibility issue here. Otherwise, they would eventually find out too, but they will find out a bit later in the parsing process.
yeah. It would fail. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so from a security
But
perspective, failing at the same point in the parsing is is an advantage. I mean, obviously you can't always ensure that, but but that's a thing to consider. Those are
Right,
trade-offs.
right. The other issue is again, this is from the maintainers think that even if a particular version or like the ideal version I'm expecting and not matching does not mean you will fail because not every protocol use every single code. So you will probably still continue anyway, I would say, and until you actually see a code that that's that current version software didn't implement. Because the chances are you will continue and yeah, there's some new code added, but I wasn't not using it, or the two sides that were not using it, and you will still be okay. And there's nothing actually wrong with it.
Yeah, and that's the way that we're operating right now with version 1 of
Yeah,
protocols, is that we add codes to the Caesar code table on a regular basis, and nobody's paying attention to the version right now. That, I mean, once we go to the the published version of the spec, then the spec requires that we pay attention to the version. Um, and that when we update the code table, that we change the minor version of Caesar. So right now we're not changing the minor version of Caesar. So if we add some codes and somebody uses a message and somebody hasn't upgraded their software to include those entries in the table, then the message will fail when they go to parse it. Someplace in their parsing logic, they'll go, well, that they'll trigger an error that says, I don't recognize that code. Um,
right.
but going forward, every time we add codes to the code table, we will minor revision the Caesar code table so that somebody looking at it can then manage that more explicitly. And so we've decided in the carry AC/DC specs to include the Caesar table version that was used for the message in the message, so that you could signal to the recipient that there might be codes that they don't recognize if they haven't upgraded to that code table. And then it's their choice what to do with the message in that case,
Yeah,
whether they try to parse it or they drop it. And you don't and it also allows the sender to change the Caesar version on a message by message basis. For example, if they're only using primitives from, say, the 2.0 version of Caesar, they could, even though they support version 2.1, they could send the message with version 2.0 for Caesar, thereby ensuring backward compatibility with with older people they message. So, for example, someone could publish as an endpoint that the version of Caesar that they support, and then somebody sending it to them could could use the older version in their messages if they're not going to send a message that uses a new primitive. And I anticipate that will happen a lot when we start to add the new NIST post quantum codes, because
yeah,
those will get added to the table at some point, probably years before people start using them or having support for them in their code and the libraries and things like that. And so uh but people doing staging and things like that with that and testing would be able to indicate that they're using later codes, and know
right.
which ones to talk to. So we had a problem like this in the ANSI 852 protocols. We had an A, B, and a C, and then
Okay.
we added an 852.1, which was not backwardly compatible with the 852 protocols. And so part of that, the reason we had a C was to define a way for two routers to negotiate to the lowest common or the highest common denominator between the most recent common version they both supported. And so that meant explicitly in your code supporting more than one version to enable interoperability across infrastructure, because these were routers. And so you often have routers that are really old, like somebody puts a router in, they don't upgrade it for a decade. And so if you can't downgrade your interoperability to the version of the protocol that that old router supports, then there's the interoperability breaks. So I've had some experience with that sort of a problem with tunneling protocols with different versions going through anyway.
Yeah. So, Drummond, for the discussion, the issue number is 57, and welcome people's opinions or discussions on that issue.
Okay.
So there are some pros and cons, and the TSP can make a decision whether to add that to the version stream or keep it current way. Both options. Let's use that issue as a way to collect all the um, preferences or the pros and cons on these two choices there. Well, this third choice, I think Sam, you just added to.
Yeah. So to minimize the size impact, so it wouldn't be any bigger size, I proposed instead of having a 4-character code for the protocol, just have a 1-character index, because I don't think we're going to have that many protocols that are TSP variants. And then it would be no additional size over the current setup, and to add by basically stealing 3 characters from the protocol and using those for the Caesar version. So that was
That will save some, because this version is in every message.
yeah. So I because the tunneling program size matters, because it's overhead on every message. So I think that's a reasonable compromise to make it so that it's not the size isn't a determining factor.
I see. Okay. So yeah, because it goes in every message.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one issue, and the second new issue is 56, which is to remove in the HPKE encryption. We have two modes within that in the past. One is called basic, the other one is auth. For a couple of reasons, I think we propose to remove the auth from it. And to me, the most, because we want to follow for HPKE, the standardization process within IETF. So they are making the HPKE into a standard track IFC. And during that process, I think it's also there's similar kind of issues raised there on the OS mode being a unused, and two, maybe the benefit and costs are unclear. And so looks like there are ongoing work there, but looks like they are removing it as well.
And a little history there. When they started developing HPKE, there was this sense of the key encapsulation methods could do all kinds of
Yeah.
cool stuff for what people call auth crypt, right? It's like we can
Yeah.
do we can solve a couple of issues with auth but the popularity of key compromise impersonation attacks was not well known at that time. And
Yeah.
so after they had written the spec, reviewers came in and said, you realize that none of the stuff that you're doing uh, actually protects from a key compromise impersonation attack.
Yeah.
And so a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of the motivation for the HPK auth, chem fanciness was try to address some security issues, but they don't solve the key compromise impersonation attack. So it doesn't really benefit you in any significant way. If you really want to be secure, you're going to have to sign it. And so the weak auth crypt is just weak, and so really it should, in my opinion, it should only be used for encryption, not for authentication. And so going
Yeah.
back to the base mode basically says we're just going to use it for encryption, not authentication. If you want to use it for authentication, fine, but buyer beware. Don't don't
Yeah.
don't don't think that this is actually secure.
Well, since for TSP, we have a separate signature anyway, so this,
Yeah, we're going to send the signature no matter what. So you're just adding bytes. Um,
yeah. The analysis of that is also kind of complicated. Like if you see the proof process for that is also complicated. So in any case, we did have in the open source implementation, we did have that implemented, and people can run it and see how it works. But we are proposing to remove this officially from the requirement in the spec.
And that issue number is which one, Wenjing?
That is 56.
56. Okay, thanks. All right.
Um, Other than that, all the rest are leftover, very old ones, like providing test vectors, and then I think we were waiting for the Caesar changes finalized, then we could provide those test vectors. That should be relatively easy to do. There's some reference, and then we have some both the security and privacy considerations to write. So there's a few ones we want to follow up, but most of the other issues are resolved already. So I don't think we have urgent things we need to resolve.
Okay.
So that's the status. Is going well. I'm expecting the implementation side. This is September, so maybe by October should be mostly done. It's already yeah, mostly done, I think. But it will take some time to test it and then maybe issue a new version of the software.
So, October. Okay. Okay. Uh, yeah, so let me just ask this question. Is there any are we okay then with just staying at the public review level, or is there any reason to publish a 1.0 at some point? I just point out that we are going to talk about the symposium coming up in November. I'm not suggesting one way or the other. I'm just asking what folks are thinking. Do we just continue to stay at whatever the review level we're at?
Uh, yeah, so conceptually, I think if we want to do that, we should, other than closing the issues we discussed, um, maybe finish that security and privacy considerations section
Right.
and provide the test vectors. Um, yeah, we should be able to close those more material things. Then I think that will be, I don't know, Sam, whether you feel soon we should be able to do a little bit of a interoperability testing, for example. I don't know, that would be that would be another additional thing we could do before we officially call it 1.0.
Yeah, I've been really busy getting the 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 other specs, the working example code done, and I finished that last month. So now or early this month, and so now I might be able to go back to working on the TSP implementation. So it's premature for me to make a promise of when that would be, but uh, hopefully before in the next few months, we should have. I mean, we've got quite a few implementations of ESSR in the tooling for carry. People are now using it instead of TLS in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Viridian wallet, they use ESSR everywhere instead of TLS. And like the health carry stuff, they're using ESSR everywhere instead of TLS when it fits the infrastructure, but
Yeah,
not doing the intermediaries, right? So they're
right.
not doing the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, those are optional. You could simply use the protocol in that
Yeah.
form. Yeah.
So the additional layers of the protocol is what's left. But so that they're most people are just doing it point to point, like a wallet talking to an agent in the cloud
Mm-hmm.
instead of communicating over TLS, they'll
Yeah.
ESSR the packets, but they don't care about metadata surveillance in that case
Yeah.
because they're just replacing TLS, which means you don't care about metadata surveillance
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Uh,
those, I mean, anyway, those will be the work I think remaining to be done, and then we should be able to. I think by that time it will be appropriate to put a formal versioning on there.
yep, yep. All right. Well, that's again, I don't see there's no particular reason to push it beyond just, when we're ready.
Right.
So I'm just holding up those dates in November. Some folks have asked, hey, are we going to have any particular releases? The the work on the TRQP protocol, there is a sense, yes, we should be able to have a release ready
Yes.
by, yeah. Okay. Um, quickly, I just noted for the TechnoStack working group folks yesterday that, spreading the word that AI and human trust, which used to be a task force, is now its own working group. Of course, I think, Wenjing, Stephen are co-chairs of that. So I'm just making sure everyone knows it is its own working group. Um, and that there's Decentralized Identity Foundation is approving a working group called the Trusted Agent Working Group. So, so we're going to have those two, again, and human trust is, you started meeting as a working group in July, right, Wenjing?
Back in July, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not new, although one reason I bring it up is the LF DT is saying, okay, we've got this other new working group, the Decentralized Trust Graph Working Group, and DIF is going to be, it's sometime this week, they're approving this Trusted Agent Working Group. So they want us to do a blog post about these three because they all, address different aspects of trust in AI agents, which is a pretty hot topic right now. Um, so I I volunteered. I said, well, okay, I'll try and get a straw man together and make sure that the other, leads of these other working groups, that we're all working together on that. And I won't get it. I thought I'd have a draft together by now, but I've got another deadline. But I will have something ready by the end of this week. Um, and uh, and we want to get it probably published sometime, as soon as DIF formally approves it, we want to probably publish it sometime next week. So this is just a heads up, Wenjing and Stephen, that we'll be doing this blog post and want you to contribute to it.
So that will be LFDT blog post.
Yeah, well, all of our blog posts are now LFTT because Trust RP is part of LFTT, but there's a subline or something that we sort of have a blog within a blog. And so, but because this is going to talk about 2 working groups of Trust RP and 1 at DIF, which is, I think folks know, is not formally a member or under the LF umbrella. It's just, yeah. But Daniela said she assigned us someone to work with us on that blog post, and I said, okay, I'll work to get together a straw man draft. So look for that, hopefully by Friday.
When is this blog post supposed to go out?
Sometime next week is the idea. DIF still has to finish their I think they're having a meeting sometime this week for the charter of the Trusted Agent Working Group. And we've also asked them, do they want to jointly participate in the Decentralized Trust Graph Working Group? So those are the 2 things that they're, having their meeting about this week. So once we know the outcome of that, then we can write the blog post. And that's, we've talked about the other ones, so that's all I have on those 2. And the last thing is just the symposium planning and the revised dates, so we get out of the crowded the logjam of October, are November 19th and 20th. So I just wanted to make sure we talked on the steering committee meeting, Wenjing, about doing a talk on the first day. The first day is presentations, either 30 or 60 minutes, talks that will each be individually recorded. So we have this nice library of basically current talks on whoever, whatever working group or task force wants to present something. And then the second day is workshops. So I think in the steering committee meeting, Wenjing, you said, oh yeah, let's definitely do a talk on TSP. And so I'm just checking that whether we still want to do that, and do we want to do any kind of workshop on the second day, because there's a bunch of code to play with. So what are folks' thoughts?
Yeah, I can easily do 2 of the topics. So one will be TSP, and second is the TMCP or TA2A protocols. This is our agent protocols over TSP.
Right.
And so both can be talks, and maybe I don't know, I still don't quite understand the workshops format yet, but we can potentially put a workshop together too. If this is that, like a demos and developer oriented, that would be fun as well. And the 2 may share actually a workshop together.
That's a cool idea.
So this symposium, is this replacing the 5th year anniversary one that was in October? Or is
Yeah,
this?
no, it's we moved the dates. We
Oh,
moved
okay.
because
So okay, that's I wasn't sure when I saw that, and I thought, was this a new, because before it was called like the 5th year anniversary, so that would.
it's still that's part of that's the tagline for it. It's just that we actually
Okay.
5th year anniversary was actually in May, so we're just saying, hey, anytime with this year, we're going to call it the 5th year anniversary. So
Yeah. The
yeah.
October day, that particular week, there's so many things that they all want to pile onto. I know Open Wallet, they were talking about it again on the exactly same week. Like, I can't go to 3 things.
So what week was that? I'm looking at my calendar. It was October 14th.
It was the week before. It would have been the
Yeah,
5th.
it's October 5th. I have it October 15th. So that's that is no longer, I just want to move it on my calendar because I've
Right.
got it.
The new dates would be the 19th and 20th of November.
What was it the week before IW? It used to be, right?
Yeah, well, it was 2 weeks before, and then they moved IAW earlier 1 week. The
Right.
IAW is now the 21st to the 23rd of October. So that meant it was going to be right before IAW, which is always a crazy period. And there's all that other stuff going on. And we all said, hey, there's no pressing reason we have to do in October. Let's take more time. And we put it the week before US Thanksgiving, which is the 19th and 20th. So it gives us some more time to prep and get things ready and just less crowded. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so the 19th will be the talks day, and again so I met with Carly yesterday. We have prepared a form for submitting proposals. We have a good list. I think it's actually I went over with Carly. We have 9 talks that the steering committee already said, okay, these are things that people want to do. And I'm and then we're going to send out this form for anyone else who wants to propose a talk. And again, because we're just going to, we'll come up with sort of a natural flow, but each one will be recorded individually, either 30 or 60 minutes. So if folks can't attend in person, they can listen to it. So we're sort of really designing it to produce this library of, current videos for everything. And then the workshops, those are interactive. So then we're also going to put out a separate form for workshop proposals. So um, yeah, and Sam Nico said proposed at least one or two, related to the Carry Suite working group. I think at least one uh, regarding Glyph and what they're doing, and then said
Yeah.
he wanted to talk to you about any others.
Well, somebody had talked to me about doing a presentation on one of the days on the carry stuff, which I said I was okay with, but so is that still what
Yeah,
you're, yeah,
that's
okay.
that's it exactly. So, all right. Well, once I get the forms out, we'll start producing a list, and we'll have plenty of time in our next meeting to review that. Now, speaking of next meetings, I was realizing, let's see, our next one will be in 2 weeks, the 17th. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be at a conference in New York City that runs the 16th and 17th. So don't, I might be able, it's a, yeah, it's a real world asset conference. I might not have a problem, but I'm just pointing out I might have a problem. So um, if we don't have any compelling reason, we could just say, hey, let's meet next, our next one after that would be October 1. Um, it, it, any strong preference about meeting in 2 weeks or waiting until October 1?
I don't have a strong preference, except that we've got this outstanding issue with regard to the versioning. So I don't know, do we,
Well, so
how do,
we could do this. If you guys have a problem, just plan to meet anyway. And I mean, I would propose use use the issue to discuss it, and see if you can get, pushed to a conclusion as soon as you can. But if you need the meeting in 2 weeks, definitely use it. And I just may or may not be able to make it myself.
oh, okay, well, I just didn't know if other people wanted to weigh in on it because it's really just me and Wenjing that are discussing it.
Exactly. At that moment, we're trying to sort of get a more yeah, input into this.
But if nobody cares, then I guess I'll challenge Wenjing to an arm wrestle and we'll see what comes out of it.
I mean, we could leave it. I think right now the only thing would be we want to resolve that, formalize it so that we could publish a 1.0 version spec. If that's not immediately in a hurry, then I think we are, we don't have a lot of work sort of blocked by this. This is just a change.
Yeah.
Okay. Sam, decide about that already. Okay. There you have it. I don't have anything else today. Does anyone else? Otherwise, we can give you back a whole 19.
I can share some progress in our notion of trust tests over TSP.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
You-
and there are more and more very interesting applications. I think is starting to being built, and so um, we've talked about running credential exchanges over it. We've talked about German. You've seen some simple ones. You know, any um, uh, college student can implement on authenticated or TSP trust tasks on that. So the latest one we have is on Matrix. I've been looking at it since last year, I think. It's a social media platform. It's also designed with a client and so it's similar to if you draw the topology of the thing, the system looks similar to TSP. So it's a quite natural fit. And so we've just prototyped a way to run TSP messages between Matrix clients. So that it could potentially give them a lot of interesting properties other than privacy and security, but also portability in identifiers and stuff like that. And so that is also a very good way. We'll probably be doing demos in the next couple of weeks or so.
Oh, cool. So,
So in addition to, TMCP and TA2A,
yeah.
we've been running many of the demos on this. Um, Currently, we have a Python and Rust implementation already.
Like, uh, yeah, MCP and A2A. Okay, that's pretty cool. I was sent a link to Meredith Whitaker. I think it's the Signal.
Mm.
Still not CEO, but everyone treats her as CEO. Gave a talk at South by Southwest, and someone sent me a link to it, so I started listening to it while brushing my teeth last night. And it's it's usual. I mean, she's just a great speaker, but usual thing about why use Signal. And I started to go, oh, and she was stressing out it's open source and everything else. And I was thinking about, is that something we would ever look at running over TSP, to vid enable it? But Matrix is even more, it's explicitly federated, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And so that's I guarantee you that will be something that I think there'll be a lot of interest in talks about that. Um, Excellent. That's a super cool topic. Um, and I'm certain that as we keep advancing the thing I'm focused on now, the first person project, we're going to come up with a bunch of trust tasks that small ones, light ones, but just being able to implement them as trust tasks is going to be very helpful. Cool. All right. Anything else anyone wants to share today? Oh, Steve has joined us. Welcome, Steve. I didn't see you sneaking in there.
No,
Yeah.
I joined about halfway through, so I thought I'd sneak in today and see what was going on.
Cool. Well,
Very nice.
yeah. It's we just discussed mainly the two open issues that are and it's let's see numbers 50 where did I put them? 56 and
6 and 7 to 57, yeah.
57 in our issues list.
Yeah, Steve and also Stephen, if you have a chance, we very much like to hear if you have a particular opinions one way or the other on those two issues.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just put them. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't.
Yeah, we want to make sure it's not just me, it's just Sam and myself.
Yeah, exactly. It would. Yeah, very good to get a DIDCOM perspective. In fact, Steve, now that you're here, is there any any particular update on the DIDCOM front, DIDCOM working group that you want to share with us in our remaining 13 minutes, just to get synced up?
Yeah, total impromptu, but we are incorporating binary encoding into the DIDCOM standard. And since it was the preference of all the attendees, CBOR is going to be our canonical binary encoding. But the way we're doing it will allow for the first byte of a DIDCOM packet to be interpreted in such a way that it can tell you what the binary encoding of the packet is. So if other encodings, Caesar in the case of the TSP, wants to do that, it'll support that as well. And then the recipients will just need to know how to interpret that first byte. There'll be more written about it. We haven't released the spec yet, but I think we have a PR that's either in or close that will do all of that. And so, yeah, so DIDCOM's going to support binary encoding here very quickly. And we're doing it in such a way, the goal was that we could release a description and not a full spec update. So that's why we're doing it the way we're doing it.
Can you explain a little bit more? So, will it be so you're not going to version the spec? This is just going to be a feature. I'm trying to understand it more.
Well, it'll be like a minor release. Yeah, I don't have all the details in front of me, but basically what we determined was setting the first byte of the spec would tell you what encoding method it would use.
Right.
And so yeah, we're still writing that up. But
So is that an actual CBOR byte or just an extra byte that you put at the front before you start parsing CBOR?
it's going to be an actual CBOR byte, I believe is how we settled on it, which if it's encoded, you just examine the first byte and it'll tell you if it's a CBOR byte. And then if it's not, then you can determine. So we're not going to.
So that means you can't send a CBOR field map because it already defines the first byte for a field map. You're going to be sending a CBOR stream is your encoding format then, so that you can define a byte that's not a field map framing byte. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm totally unprepared to talk about this today.
Okay, all right.
Like, let me just start with that.
Okay, all right.
At the 100,000-foot view, that's what we're doing. Specifics of how it's done, I'll have to get that information. And Sam Curran is writing up a PR based on everything we discussed. And as soon as that's in, I can bring that over here, and then we can discuss it. But yeah, I'm not prepared to discuss all those details today. But what we were kind of looking at was not adding a new byte, but examining the first byte once it's encoded. If that creates issues, like I say, let me get the details, and then we can have a more in-depth discussion. But
Yeah, I mean that's essentially what we do in Caesar is that the first byte of a CBOR field map, the first byte of a JSON field map, and the first byte of a message pack field map, and the first byte of a Caesar anything happen to have differing. The first 3 bits are different, so we can sniff the first, actually not even the first byte, just the first 3 bits, and determine at the what is following. So I was just wondering if you were doing something like that, or if you were actually having a special byte that you were going to encode with the table, that like a byte order mark. In the old days when UTF was a new thing, you put a byte at the first of any text file that would tell you whether it was little ending or big ending, and so you could be able to process the UTF correctly. But
Yeah,
I
we
didn't know
talked about both ways.
yeah, okay.
So I'm not entirely certain which one we are settling on. We got a guy in Europe who's writing up a kind of a proof of concept of how, like, building code, like proof of
Oh,
concept.
okay. All right. Well, that's
Um,
probably too much detail for this. I just was curious.
yeah, yeah, we talked about both methods, um, and the pros and cons of each. But my understanding was the one we settled on was just analyzing the first byte if it was CBOR encoded, and then going from there. But there's probably a few more details. I don't have my notes in front of me, so I'll have to get that next
Yeah,
time.
yeah. If you assume that it's a CBOR field map, then the first byte is always the same, right? Because the first byte is CBOR field map. At least the first few characters of the byte are always the same. But it just means that you can't send it'd only be compatible with other binary encodings that didn't happen to allow that first byte to be the same thing as a CBOR one. But if you define your own byte, then everybody would have to prefix their stream with a particular byte. It'd be like a byte order mark. So I don't, I'm just that's okay.
Yeah,
I'm not
no, I hear your concern, and
yeah,
let me get more details because I don't
yeah.
disagree with you. But let me get more details, and I can bring that next time. I just don't have that in front of me right now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a reminder to add it to agenda for the next meeting, Steve, which is in 2 weeks, if you have that. And if you don't, we can do it in the following meeting after that. So all good.
Okay. Yeah, one way or another, I'll get it to you. Sometimes this time slot competes with the VC working group over at the W3C, so I'm kind of here and there.
Gotcha. Understood. And just glad to have you join us. It's good to keep TSP and DIGCOM in conversation as we evolve these protocols, in which there is growing interest on every front, and I love to see that. That's what we're here for. So, excellent. All right. Well, we now are down to just 5 minutes saved. Unless, are there any other topics anyone wants to bring up? All right. So you get a whopping 5 minute break before the next set of calls. So appreciate everyone, and enjoy your first week back from August breaks as we get back into the sprint.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right, everyone, you bet.
See
Take
y'all.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.